Hello and welcome to our talk. We have been magnified for years, now you are under the microscope. This is a project about how co-researchers with learning disabilities created an online survey to challenge public understanding of learning disability. The project is funded by the Wellcome Trust, who are a large medical research organisation in the United Kingdom, and it's a partnership between a number of institutions, including the organisation Heart and Soul, which is led by people with learning disabilities and autistic people, and also the University of the Arts London's new Creative Computing Institute. As you can see, there are an awful lot of authors on this paper, and that reflects the approach that we've taken throughout this research, by including and involving as much as possible people with learning disabilities, both in the creation of the technology which was used, and also the way it was used, and the precise method and manner of conducting research that we've undertaken. We're yet to report on the complete results of the experiments we've run alongside our colleagues at the Hub, but this paper is really about how we worked with everybody to achieve those goals so that we could do much more reliable and much more meaningful research with our partners. Hi, I'm Professor Mick Grierson, and I'm Research Leader at the University of the Arts London's new Creative Computing Institute. The kinds of work that we do, it's very focused on creative industries, but at the same time our approach to creative industries is very broad.
The thing to understand about Heart and Soul is they're not a therapy organisation. They believe in the talents and powers of people with learning disabilities and autistic people, and the work that their artists have produced is well respected. They have performed at the Paralympic Games in 2012, as well as South by Southwest and Hong Kong, and many bands have come out of their artist development programme, as well as visual artists, and they've also done theatre.
Fundamentally, what we want to do is create a space where we can work with and alongside people with learning disabilities and autism in order to understand what kinds of research questions are valuable to them, and then to help them to go about the process of investigating those research questions. And that's absolutely, genuinely the project that we have been funded to carry out. And it's tremendously exciting, but it also has an incredible number of sharp challenges, because within that, we want to make software. We want to make software which is usable. We want to encourage the development and use of that software. We also want to think about how we use media effectively, more effectively, to be more accessible. We want to also, alongside all of this, be entirely driven by the views and the approaches and the perspectives of those people with learning disability and autism who we are working with.
Hi, my name is Dorota and I'm postdoctoral research fellow at the Hub. So why is it important that we do this research? Multiple studies report that public attitudes towards learning disabilities are generally positive, empathetic, and inclusive. However, this doesn't necessarily match with the experiences of family members, as reported in the literature, or members of communities such as Heart and Soul. And as part of this project, we wanted to find out why this is the case.
Hi, my name's Robyn, and I'd like to tell you about our survey app. Our survey app was co-designed by people with learning disabilities. In the US, you'd say intellectual disabilities and autistic people. The reason we designed it was because typical survey platforms like SurveyMonkey or Smart Survey are not accessible to people with intellectual disabilities and autistic people, but they still deserve to be listened to because we're all human. So we decided that we wanted to create something that would be accessible, both on the back end and the front end. We've created something that means that you can ask questions in a creative way, using pictures, audio, video, or you can just use text. And you can answer the questions in a more creative way, using video, pictures, audio, or text, or a mixture.
So in order to design the survey app or the survey platform, we organized a co-design workshop. And for this reason, we invited 6 co-designers to the Hub to explore this with them. And we structure the workshop using the Design for Diversity framework to accommodate the co-designers' individual differences. And at the workshop, we explored both the positive as well as negative elements of surveys previously completed by the co-designers. And co-designers were encouraged to draw potential paper prototype solutions to these negative aspects of online surveys. So here is one of the examples of such a paper prototype solution. Next, we organized 2 usability tests to gain design insights to improve these prototypes. And for the usability tests, we invited 10 individuals, both with learning disabilities and or autism, and without. And during these tests, we examined the usability, accessibility, and comprehension of survey questions that utilize different mediums, such as video, audio, pictures, and all the examples that Robyn has already talked us through. So taking into account the diverse views and experiences of our co-researchers, the survey app, the survey platform, was finally co-designed and developed, and its features, such as the possibility of asking questions using different medium, such as videos, audio, pictures, gave this opportunity to co-researchers to be very creative in the next step of the project, where they had to come up with the content of the survey, decide on how to ask the questions in the survey, etc. Other features, such as the possibility of changing the color of the background, such as in here, or making text bigger or smaller, like here, made our survey more accessible to the public. So at this stage, our co-researchers were ready to start thinking about the questions that they would like to ask the public in the survey. And in order to do it, Pino, a co-founder of Heart and Soul with lived experience of learning disability, organized the first survey design workshop, which we later called Tea Party. And any other workshop later on was called the Tea Party. So we organized a series of tea parties. So Pino invited 13 of his friends and colleagues who can talk and push it, as he nicely phrased. And during this meeting, tea party, a conversation, 3 main themes emerged. As a team, we wanted to make sure that our co-researchers, who are non-academics, do understand what research is about and also what it is to be a researcher. We organized another tea party titled What is Research, in order to explore some of these ideas with co-researchers. So 8 most committed co-researchers who enjoyed coming to our tea parties the most worked on the survey content in detail. So the main outcome of interest, or the main goal, was to develop a storyboard with very specific questions, with the decisions of how many questions co-researchers would ask, in what form, how to position them chronologically, etc. So after 3 meetings, one storyboard was fully developed and with the potential to measure baseline public attitudes or understanding of learning disability. Co-researchers decided that they would like to ask most of the questions in the form of a video. So this was our more human way of asking questions within surveys. And in the following slides, you will see the final outcome. So a selection of several questions from the main survey.
For a long time, people with learning disabilities and autistic people have been under the microscope. Heart and Soul Asks is a project that flips the microscope and lets people with learning disabilities and autistic people ask you the questions.
Hi, my name is Lizzie. I've got a question for you. People stare at me all the time. What do you see when you see me?
My name is Pino, and I would like to ask you a question. Are you frightened of people with learning disability? I want you to answer that question. and I want you to tell us what you really think.
So what tools did we use to co-design the survey platform and the survey in such an unusual way? So importantly, all of us, all team members, appreciate the fact that there is a different way of expressing oneself, and it was our goal to make sure that we can provide co-researchers with all the opportunities and tools that would enable them to reach their full potential.
1, 2,
Go,
3,
go, 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 go.
4.
Normal, it's not normal to me. Hate the word normal. It was normal for you, normal for me, normal. Hate the word normal, you see. Hate the word normal. If it's normal for you, normal for me.
So far, we've received more than 1,000 responses from the public and with some very positive feedback. So some of them even say that this is the best survey they've ever done in their life. Therefore, this is another reason for why you should take our survey as well. And I very highly encourage you to do so. Some good news, also Pino, so the lead co-researcher, wrote an article for national newspaper, The Guardian, where he explains what it means for him to be a co-researcher, and he also explains the whole process of co-designing the survey.
So, what are the implications for human-computer interaction from this work? There's definitely an awful lot of resistance to the work that we've been trying to share, in particular around, how can you be sure that people involved in your research are aware of what they're doing? How can you be certain that you're not just doing this work and pretending, fooling yourself that these people are involved? And I think an awful lot of people who, including our co-researchers, when we share those views, they do seem like strange views, but we hear them a lot. You'd be surprised. We hear that an awful lot. So that's one issue, I think, which we're trying to wrestle with. And I think that has massive implications for all research. We've been told by the Wellcome that this is something which they're very interested in. And that we've met with scientific advisors and the head of the science team at Wellcome, and they're very interested in the methods that we've taken and how they can apply those in a medical research situation. And so I do think that there's a really interesting outcome there for HCI in terms of how we think about users. And so let's think about that. Co-research, not just co-design. You're not just working with people to get them to take up your system. You're working with people so you're building something which they understand is useful, not just because you're making something they've never thought of before, but because you're trying to come up with reasons. You're trying to help solve problems that have happened as a result of people not listening before. And I know that sounds really obvious, but the more you can involve people, the better that is. But, research alongside research subjects with outputs shared by those usually considered participants, that's a fundamental difference, right? But there's another thing potentially I think that people might want to reflect on. How can we make big data approaches more accessible? What we've essentially done here is done a survey. We have 1,000 respondents who've all completed the survey, and it's not massive, but it's okay, and we will get a lot more. But we've done that in a way which is much more accessible to those people who are the subjects of the research, whose life issues are the subjects of the research. And I think there are lots of questions about that, and we've tried to answer some of them.
In the meantime, our co-researchers created the second survey, and this time they would like to explore with you the issue of independence, freedom, overprotection, and they hope that you can join them in this conversation. Thanks for watching, and we hope that you will keep in touch with us. Bye.